I happen to know that there are 4 new buttons we'll need for a later section, and you'll need even more for the exercises. Now, it wasn't too hard to create buttons using our GD scripts, but we'll now develop a tool to make it quicker. Creating this button making tool also shows us how we can embed a client-side script like JavaScript into our PHP code. The downside of using something like JavaScript is that the user's browser has to be enabled for Java, something we don't need to worry about with server-side scripting. This is going to be an example of the kind of tool I mentioned earlier, something that helps us deliver software quicker and more consistently. But please remember, this is just an example of how we might create and embed a tool. I'm certainly not suggesting this is a real-life tool in itself, or that we'd ever embed it in a CRM application. To create the tool, we're first going to create a function by loading the snippet from the Tools branch, fn_create_button, saving it as fn_create_button in the includes folder. This function has 5 parameters, an X offset, how far to the left the text starts in the button box, a background color, a text color, the string of characters that's going to form the label of the button, and the file name that we're going to save it as. It returns an error message, which is empty if there's no error. We'll start off by declaring some constants. We're always going to use a height of the button of 16 pixels. We're always going to use the Free Sans font, which is located in the fonts file. We're always going to save the image as a PNG file in the images folder. We're always going to use a font size of 12 at a text angle of 0, and a Y offset, or an offset from the top of the button of 13 pixels. Remember, the 16 is the height and 13 is the distance from the top of the baseline of the text string. We're then going to take advantage of the fact that the PHP function image TTF text returns an array corresponding with the 4 point of the text. So the function image TTF text has a return value of an array of 8 elements representing the 4 points marking the boundary box of the text. So by creating this dummy image, we can return the image width as the image's 3rd element, the array element 2, which is the X coordinate of the bottom right-hand corner of the text box. We'll then create the real image that we want with a size of the width of the dummy image plus the X offset that we've had as the first parameter of the function. We'll then create variables which are the RGB equivalents of the hexadecimal text string for a color. We only have to enter the hexadecimal code for the color and not 3 RGB components. And then we'll create the image in the usual way with the image PNG function. We'll then need a form to enter the details. So in our script tool create button, we're going to provide the user with a form that references itself with the 5 parameters for the function create button in the previous script. So it accepts these 5 parameters and then sends that as posted variables to itself. So we collect the posted variables. If they meet certain criteria, we execute the function create button. But one thing we don't really want to have to do is enter the hexadecimal codes of the colors. So we're going to use an embedded JavaScript function here, or a set of functions, which is provided for you in the snippet colorSelector v3.js, and you need to save that as colorSelector v3.js in the tools directory. So we save tool create button in the tools directory. If you don't have a tools directory, you'll need to create one, and similarly with colorSelector, and save the function as usual in the includes directory. If we now go to the browser and load up localhost/tools and find the tool create file, and click on that, we're presented with this form. Now, one of the lovely things that this JavaScript embedded file does, it allows us to click on pick a color and pops up a color to pick. So I'll pick as my background color this dark red here, as my foreground color a bright yellow, I'll call the button label test, and the file name I'll also call test. No extension because a PNG will automatically be created. Create the button, and it tells us that the image has been produced at that location, and that's what it looks like. If I click on that and say view image, I can see that this is the image test.png. So we've created a tool to create images.